So now we're going to talk about how to make a tree. We already have one here that looks darn good. Let's see if we can try to figure out how to get there. Make sure all of your layers are completely locked and make a new layer. And you can, by clicking this button right here, you can make a new layer. Double click this and call it tree 3, 4, whatever you want, and hit the return. Now what we're going to do is select, load the selection that you saved when you were trying to make the tree. Do the best version you have, say OK, and there it is. So we're on this new tree layer. Everything else is locked for sure. We've loaded this on. It's big enough to work with. Now we have to look at the image and get some color. So the first thing you want to do is go over to your eyedropper tool and pick a color of a tree that's already in the image or something else like a bush, whatever you think might be a good color. For example, if you go down on the ground, you get this greenish brown color. If you go over on this tree, you're getting a more green color. So you have to play around with this a little bit and be happy with your color. So once you pick a color, go over into the color picker here and make sure that you're more in the middle range, because what we're going to be doing with this tree is actually shading the side that's facing the light and darkening the side that's in shadow. So you always want to pick a middle range. So for example, I'll go back again and show you. Stay somewhere in the middle. You maybe go a little more to the gray than the color. That's up to you. Try some things out. So now we've picked our color. We're going to go Edit, Fill. And make sure it says the foreground color and that it's normal 100%. Now we're in business. If you think it's too light, go back to the color picker, pick something a little darker, try that. Edit, Fill, foreground color 100%. And that's pretty good for this picture, so why don't we stick with that. Now the first thing we're going to do is select, deselect. We're going to lock the layer. We're going to copy it. We are going to unlock the copy, but we're going to lock the transparent pixels on the layer. So that done, we're going to go Filter, Noise, Add Noise, and you want to make sure it's on monochromatic and test this out a little bit to give you a little more texture or not. That seems pretty good. Okay. Then you're going to go Filter, Blur, and you're going to do a lens blur. Now, what happens when you do a lens, excuse me, that's not the one I meant. You're going to do Filter, Blur, and you're going to do a motion blur. Filter, Blur, Motion Blur. Since this is in this position, it's having the bark growing sideways because this is sideways. Move it up like this. And now the bark is growing up the tree more. So adjust that so it looks right to you. Usually the numbers down in the lower ranges are pretty good, around 5 or 4, somewhere there, and we're all set. So now, here again, we're going to lock this, copy it again, and unlock the copy, but you can leave the transparent pixels locked. So now the next step we're going to do is we're going to start shading. Notice where the light is coming in this picture. It's already established. We have shadows falling on the ground from the trees. We have the light filtering in here, which means that this side of the tree will be in shadow. So you want to go over here under this tool that looks like a lollipop called the Dodge tool. Hold it down until the Burn tool comes up, because the Burn tool darkens things. Start with midtones because that's about right. You want to get a very big, as big a brush as you can, and keep the hardness level way down to 0. And that's probably a good size for this tree. The exposure, notice I'm going right across these things, should be down around 30%, because if you go too fast, it will ruin it and unprotect the tones. So this is a good setup. Please look at this. All right, here we go. We're going to come in sideways, and we're going to start to darken this tree from the side where the light isn't falling. And little by little by little, we're going to come in and do it until we feel that it's looking good. So here we go. We're going to do this. And now to get in on this side, we've got to make the brush smaller, so that we're going to come in here and get this side of the branch without hitting that, because the light should be hitting that side. You have to take some time with this. Can't rush it. You've got to work and really change the size of your brush so that it's suitable for the size of the branch you're working on. So if you're working on a big branch, use a bigger brush. And bring in that shading, and as you do, you'll notice it will start to make a more rounded form, which is just what you're looking for. It's losing its flatness, and it's looking round. So we could go on and on and on and on. And I'm not going to spend any more time on it, but that's it. Now we're going to go to the next tool, just so you'll know how to do it. You go to the Dodge tool, make sure that it's set with the biggest brush, no hardness, all the way down to 0, mid-tones, and you want this back down at around 30, somewhere in that, and unprotect tones. Now since the light's coming this way, it's going to hit the tree over here. There we go. We're starting to lighten this side of the tree. I'm going to go back to the burn tool and bring a little more. I got to get that bigger. Come in and darken a little bit more so it's starting to fit the trees that are in the image. So little by little by little, I can work on this, work on this, work on this. There's a lot more work to be done, but as you look at it and compare it to this version, you can see that by this time it's really starting to have a more rounded form. So this is how you begin working on making a flat shape look rounded. And it takes a lot of work, but if you really love your work, you'll do a good job on it. And so that's it.